Half step forward, march!
Went off the war, served, and fell in the line of combat. They weren't able to return. Today, we get to spend today Veterans Day, the 100th anniversary of Veterans Day. Thank you. 100th anniversary of Veterans Day, guys. In schools all across America, they gather in large and small groups to remember the soldiers that did go away and came home. And today, guys, we're going to be joined by members of the military that served with us. For nearly a century since the guns in the First World War fell silent on the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month, the American people observed this day. First as Armistice Day, and now as Veterans Day. And I thank you, all who are here and all who are gathered around the gymnasium, for continuing this tradition. This is also the 50th anniversary of the height of the Vietnam War. And it was on March 29th, guys, in 1973, when combat support troops withdrew from South Vietnam. Generations later, veterans of this time period were gaining the respect that they were not so freely given upon their return, involving 5 U.S. presidents, crossing nearly 2 decades, and 5,000 American troops served. Military personnel have left an incredible mark on the American psyche. Returning veterans from Vietnam did not always get the hero's welcome that they do today. Veterans during Vietnam often would arrive home to protest. 58,000 Americans were killed in the line of combat, never returned home. In the spring, the National Vietnam War Veterans Day recognized the military service of these men and women who answered the call to service for their country, who needed them. Today, we have the privilege of listening to 2 Vietnam veterans. We have the privilege of listening to husband and wife, Tim and Karen Davis. So if I can read this from this. Tim Davis, a United States Marine Corps veteran. Mr. Davis served with the 3rd Battalion, 27th Marines, the 1st Marine Division in Day 9, Vietnam during the Vietnam War. He was honored with the Bronze Star and the Purple Heart during his service from 1967 to 1968. His wife, Carolyn, served in the United States Army from 1983 to 1990 with the 5th Special Forces Unit and the 82nd Airborne. Today, let's give this group a warm, barren welcome.
Well, howdy. You see the pictures on the wall. This is what 50 years does to you, so gives you something to look forward to, huh? Well, I've thought about this and thought about it, and the way I look back at it is World War II was a hero's war. Everybody was welcomed home and ticker tape parades and all that. The Korean veterans, almost as many died in Korea as they died in 3 years as the 11 years in Vietnam. And the Vietnam War was the most hated war. Nobody wanted us back. Whether you come back with legs or without legs, it didn't matter. Man or woman, whether you were a nurse, served in the hospitals, taking care of guys like me, to bring us home, to keep us alive. They were the ones that had to lie to some of these guys that they were going to be fine. And yet just a couple minutes later, they would pass away. But they got to die holding the hand of somebody that really cared for them. Because whether you came home in a casket, walking, or in a wheelchair, the reception was the same for the man and the woman veterans. When I got hit, May 13th, 1968, we landed on this hill, and we were to move sandbags to build up foxholes, and I tripped a landmine that I picked the right sandbag up. When I picked the left one up, I heard the click, and that was it. I saw a big gold ball of fire. I went up, came down, and I was not a Christian then, but I did pass away. I know that I passed away for a little bit because everything was peace and calm and greens and blues. And I was wakened back up by these corpsmen that was pounding on my chest to bring me back. I looked up, my left leg was blown all the way off, and it was split open, burning from the explosion. I thought I was going to be able to keep my right one, but by the time they worked on me and took care of me, gangrene had set in, and they had to take it on off. I got hit at about 10:30 in the morning, but they did not do any, they got me stabilized, but I did not want to go home like that. There was no amputees that I knew of in Whitley County. And I major lettered in high school 9 times. I didn't want to go home because I didn't belong in a wheelchair. And that was just, I hated it. And I hated coming home like that. And they sent me to Guam to rehab. So I got to Guam, and you can't leave there until your wounds have at least scabbed over. And so when I left there, we called it a milk run. We had an airplane that was loaded with gurneys and stretchers with all amputees and severely wounded Vietnam veterans. And the reason I called it a milk run was the first stop was we dropped different vets off at VA hospitals and such all the way to the States. We first landed in like Seattle, then Oakland, Long Beach, I remember the route, Dallas, went to Memphis. They missed dropping one off in Dallas, had to turn around, go back, take him back. Went down to Tampa, Florida, and then the last stop on the milk run was Walter Reed. And it was myself and one other Marine that was still on the airplane. They had us stacked all the way down and back. And the nurses were giving us meds and taking care of us, keeping us alive. And they rolled me and my other Marine friend out. This lady over, they had this orange snow fence that you see around here. They had it over there holding the protesters back. Well, this one lady said, "That's my brother, that's my brother." And I knew it wasn't my sister. So she came through. They let her through to come over and greet me and my friend. And she had one of those lilac lei necklaces that you get from going to Hawaii or whatever. And she bent over and spit on me 3 times and called me a couple nasty names. Of course, they grabbed her, took her off. That was the first time I'd actually been able to see the blue skies of the United States and the soil of the United States. And that's why that we were one of the most hated veterans ever known to the United States, and the very, very young teenagers that were our age, and they were spitting on us. And they were throwing stuff at us and stuff like that. So rather than put us on the plane, they put us in an ambulance, and they took us on down to Philadelphia Naval Hospital it's an amputee hospital. So that was my welcome home. And when I say, you know, I'm so happy for the veterans that are coming back right now from Afghanistan, Iraq, and such, because they get the ticker tape parades, they get the warmest welcome ever, and us guys, the Vietnam guys who set aside, we're happy for them. But there's a little bit of jealousy there too. But, and a lot of people will ask me, well, Tim, would you ever do that again? If you had it to do all over again, would you do it? My answer is yes, because I lost more buddies in Vietnam. And when I know Army is probably about the same way, but the brotherhood that the Marines have is, to me, is like no other. I'm one of 12 kids, 9 boys and 3 girls, and my brothers in the Marine Corps are closer or as close to me as my own flesh and blood. And if I have any problems, I can call them, I can talk to them, and but I am glad to be back. A little bit slower being in a wheelchair but with legs, but I figure if I was able-bodied, I'd be walking around with canes and crutches and stuff like that. But I could pass all those guys up now. But I'd like to see a show of hands with any of you that have relatives that served in the Vietnam War. Raise your hands. That's awesome. That's awesome. And if you have a chance, like I told a couple other people at Columbia City, you know, if you're walking around the mall or whatever, and especially if you see a World War II veteran with a hat on or something like this, go over and tell them thanks. Take a second out of your time just to go over and say, I appreciate what you did. If you see Korea, there's those guys are around too, a lot of them. Go over and don't pick their brain a little bit. If you want to know anything about the Korean or the World War II war, ask them. They will, I guarantee they'll freely sit down and tell you about it. If you ask a Vietnam veteran to tell you, chances are they probably won't, because of the feeling of they didn't get the gratitude, they didn't get the respect and stuff like that, but when they came back. And a lot of them won't even admit that they were or are a Vietnam vet because of that hurt. And you'll have to realize a lot of the Vietnam vets, they are not wounded like me. It's not a visual thing, but it's a memory thing. The bodies that they put on those helicopters, the buddies that they saw die right beside of them, and they picked them up. They did the best they could to keep them alive until they could get them medevaced out. Those guys have a hurt and a wound inside of them that you will never ever see. And so, like I said, if you see somebody with a hat, whether it's a neighbor or man, look at the women. There's a lot of women that served in Vietnam that won't be recognized because they don't think they did enough, but they did a ton. So with that, I'll turn it over to my wife. She was Army, but that's okay too, eh? All right, this is my wife, Caroline Davis.
I want to first say thank you so much for taking the time to, see, I don't even know how to use these things, to take the time to honor the veterans. And I want to say thank you to the veterans that are here for your service And to the Vietnam veterans here, welcome home. Veterans, when you're honoring veterans, the word honor, a lot of people, you know, when I teach a lot, and I'm also very English-oriented, word-oriented, and English is my main subject, and honor is given in today's society very frivolously. We give our honor to individuals who do not and have not earned that recognition. And I always say, give honor, or give honor where honor is due, but also honor is not given, it is earned. And so give honor to those that have earned the right to be honored. And those are individuals that have chosen to go forward into a dangerous situation to protect you and me at any given moment. And many of that are the veterans. They go to danger to protect our rights, our freedoms. Anyone that goes to danger and puts themselves between you and a deadly situation deserves honor. So not only am I including the veterans in this, I'm also including the police, the fire department, the paramedics, your teachers, because sadly, in this day and age, it's your teachers that are between you and a deadly situation. Your parents are probably the very first people that you should honor, because they're the first people that will come between you and a dangerous situation. I don't think you guys have ever thought of honoring your parents or your teachers and giving honor where honor is due. Many times I've talked to a lot of children. We have had many foster children. And their honor goes to actors and actresses, athletes. And yes, I'm sure they are capable of coming between you and danger, but that is not their chosen field. That is not their chosen lifestyle. So give honor where honor is due. And we thank you that you are honoring veterans today. And when you're out and you're seeing, like my husband had said, when you're seeing a veteran, and most of them are not women that you're going to see. We don't think that wearing a hat that identifies us is a good fashion statement.
Try it.
So be very careful to not forget that there are hundreds of thousands of women veterans that serve proudly, but quietly go into the background because we don't happen to like that kind of a fashion. And it's okay. But when you do come across a woman veteran, honor her just as much as you would honor the men. And again, we thank you. We thank you for this opportunity to share. And I thank all of you guys, because these guys came before me. And I got to serve and do so many things in the military because they first served. They opened the doors for a lot of women. And I'm proud and I'm privileged also to have opened a lot of doors for women that are now in Ranger School and in Special Forces and have graduated. Because in 1984, I was the first female to graduate from Recondo School. That was only reserved at that time for men. So, just thought I'd say that. So who would like to give this mic to?
Hand it to me and I'll call Mr. Wade. There you go.
Hey guys, can the fire come on down? Sit up. Guys, at this time I want to take a second to think about the DHS honor wall. The honor wall is placed outside the front office, and this wall is used to remember and honor those DeKalb graduates that have served in the United States military. If you have any military family members who graduated DeKalb High School, if you could get a form from the library, they will gladly put their picture up with their dates of service. But at this time, our show choir is going to sing the Armed Forces Melody, and I invite each one of you to stand during the portion of the song that represents the branch where a family member or a friend served.
Dedicate the Army say is attended fencing in '68. How many history people we got over here that like history? Okay, read about what happened in '68. Thank you.
I'm Rick Grove. I was in 1969 to 70 in the Army.
My name is Ralph Cook. I served in the Navy from 1951 to 55 during the Korean War. I served on an aircraft carrier in Korea. And, it was a great experience.
My name is Bob Wu. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1967 to 1971. Thank you all for honoring us.
Captain Hess, I served in the Marine Corps from 1969 to 1971.
I served in the Army from 1975 to 1978.
Jamie Nelson. I served from 88 to 94 during desert changes as well.
Hi, I'm Jerry Chad, served in the Ohio Army National Guard from 1964 to 1970.
I'm Randy Morgan. I served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam in 1968-69.
I'm Paul Yoder, served in the United States Navy, 1971, 1975.
J.D. Smith, United States Air Force, 1965 and 1971. And I'd like to do something right now, folks. Why are we here today? You know what this chair represents? This represents all the brothers and sisters that never made it home. That's what this chair represents. And every one of you students here today, you have a great opportunity to join the military. There's a career for every one of you. At this moment, too, I'd like to dedicate a special moment to a Navy veteran from Hamilton, Indiana, Mr. Jerry Ball, who passed away recently unexpectedly, but I dedicate it today to him, too. Thank you for being here.
Custodian Carl Hansen, U.S. Marine Corps, 75 to 79.
Thank you, at this moment, guys, I want to thank Tim and Carolyn Davis and the veterans sitting before us. And at this point, everyone, please stand and remain silent as we close our ceremony today with the playing of the taps, followed by a moment of silence. Guys, at this time, color guard will come close to the flags. Okay, guys, as we leave today, are we heading back to 7th period? Yep, we're going to head back to 7th period. sit tight. I think Ms. Connor has a few things she wants to say. Yeah. Hey guys, before you leave, I invite each and every one of you to come down and thank these veterans for showing up today and for their service to our country. So as you're dismissed, come on down, thank them, and check out the plaques over here to take a look at, and have a great weekend, veterans.